Welcome to the Quality of Life podcast, where we explore how hospice and palliative care may enhance quality of life for patients living with a serious illness. Here is your host, hospice and palliative care leader and educator, Dr. Millicent Burke-Sinclair.
Hello and welcome to the Quality of Life podcast. I'm here today with Stephanie Wilson, Director of Development, and Palma Cohen, Annual Giving Coordinator. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you are, because I think this is a really important time of year where a lot of people start reflecting on purpose and gratitude and how they can be a part of making something possible for others. And so with that in mind, before we jump in, I'd love if y'all would just share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Millicent. Hi, this is Palma Cohen, and I serve as the Annual Giving Coordinator at Four Seasons Foundation. I've spent more than 20 years helping people connect with causes that matter, and I love building relationships that find real impact. When I'm not working on fundraising campaigns, you usually find me outdoors hiking or jogging through the beautiful trails of Pisgah Forest with my family, including our lovable but sassy dog, Peanut Butter.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Wilson, and I'm a local girl. I grew up in Mills River, and I went away to college and thought I was going to escape North Carolina after graduating. I actually went to Campbell University and studied trust and estate management, which is near Raleigh and Fayetteville, and immediately went to Florida right after graduating college and started my first career as a trust officer. And it was during that role that I started to understand and learn about this fascinating world of professional fundraising, and more specifically, which we can talk about later, the concept of planned giving, which is helping people will use their estates, will, trust, and things like that to create a gift to support a charity in the community that meant something to them. And that warmed my heart so much more than being a trust officer in a big corporate bank. So I made the switch. I was able to use my education and my experience as a trust officer to do fundraising work at a cancer center in Tampa. And I absolutely fell in love with the idea of helping somebody navigate the decision-making process of they want to make a donation, but they're not quite sure how to make it, how to set it up, or if there's a specific program that they can support that really warms their heart. And that's what I love about this role. So in 2021, I decided it was time to come home. I missed the mountains. I'm more of a mountain girl than a Florida girl. Four Seasons gave me the opportunity to come back, and I am absolutely honored, delighted, humbled to be a part of this organization.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I learned something new. I didn't know that you're from Mills River. I don't know how I missed that. Just kind of a fun fact about me. I was born and raised right here too. So that was really cool. And I love that you enjoy hiking. And we are so blessed with so many great areas to hike in this area. And you know, the reason why I wanted to make that maybe personal connection and local connection is when we talk about things that matter most to us, oftentimes we might be filled with a smile or maybe a memory that even could bring a tear, but it's something that touches our heart. And when I think about what we do at Four Seasons, it touches my heart, it touches both of your hearts, and it touches a lot of people's heart. And I'd just like to invite our listeners to imagine with me for a moment that you have to love a loved one who is struggling with a serious illness and they need access to care. But for whatever reason, they don't have it. I mean, I've been fortunate to have multiple family members be served through palliative or hospice care, but I've also seen what it's like for that not to be the case. And when I think about our conversation today, we're going to come to understand a little bit more around how there's an opportunity for people who have a passion, who say there's something really meaningful in my heart about making care possible for people who might otherwise not have access. So with that in mind, would both of you be willing to share just a little bit about why donors are so important with providing access to care?
Sure, I can start. When someone makes a gift, they're not just supporting a program or a facility, they're directly impacting a person. In many cases, donor contributions are the difference between families receiving support during end-of-life challenges or going without these critical services. Think about this. The gift that we're talking about may provide a child with specialized pediatric care, help a grieving family access counseling, or ensure that a hospice patient receives compassionate support in their final days. We often say that donations fill the gap between what's needed and what's possible. And that's exactly what our donors do. They make the possibility real. They allow us to go beyond the basics and offer truly exceptional care that treats the whole person, not just the illness. That's why their support is so essential. Every gift matters, and every gift changes lives.
Changing lives.
Right?
Yeah, that was beautiful. So, Millicent, as you were talking about people who don't have access to care, and forgive me if I get emotional on this, one of the stories that touched me the deepest since working here is a gentleman was experiencing homelessness. He had a serious pulmonary disease that made him miss work. So he lost his job, which means he lost his health insurance coverage, which means he lost his income and eventually lost his home. And I'm not sure how palliative care got involved with him, but what I learned through our chaplain is that the palliative care team, especially his social worker, would drive all over Asheville until she found him. They knew certain places where he would park, and she would make sure that he had food. I know that's not our mission, I know, is not to provide homes or meals for our patients, but it just speaks to the caliber of people who work at this organization and who work in hospice care across the country. They took care of him and they initiated the process where he could get Medicaid. So in the time that he was in palliative care, he did not have coverage. He did not have a way to pay. And it was our donors who allowed him to get the care that he received. So I remember that story as you were talking about making care possible.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that you said several really important things. We provide care for hospice patients wherever they call home. For our palliative patients, our care navigation, our home care, we also oftentimes go right to where they are because we want to make sure that we're meeting their needs in a safe way, a reliable way. But one thing that's really special about our palliative services is we also have clinics. Our palliative clinics can be really refreshing for people because not everyone wants people coming into their home, or they could be in between homes or unhoused. And so what I love so much about the example that you shared is we will go where the patient is, and we genuinely care. You shared also about meals. It is important to us that the whole person is cared for. And so through our care navigation services, we can help navigate accessing resources, whether it's within the community or working with a provider, or you fill in the blank. It's just important that we hear what's most important for those that we provide care for, and try our best to connect them with the resources or provide it if we are able to. And so donors are so imperative in making that possible because we have many people within the communities we serve that might be uninsured or underinsured. If they are eligible for care, we want to be sure they have access to care. And so I was thinking about a similar story when you were talking, and I remember this patient who hesitated to reach out for care because they knew they didn't have a way to pay. We connected and they said, "I'm so grateful that y'all accepted me." I mean, it just brings tears. And it's because donors made it possible. And our care team and our volunteers said, we're caring for anyone. And that's the beauty of what we get to do. And so I'm just so thankful that there's donors that have a passion and a heart to make care possible. I'd love if you could share with listeners a little bit more. How are donor dollars used to support care? What are some ways and some examples?
There are a lot of programs and services that are provided through Four Seasons that are only possible because of the heart and the generosity of our donors. And I'll give a couple of examples of this. And if it's okay, I'll share a couple of stories that tie in these examples.
Thank you.
Four Seasons firmly believes that everybody deserves the same level of quality, compassion, dignity, and care, regardless of their ability to pay. We just talked about the gentleman that we helped who was living in his car. And because we believe so strongly in that, we started an angel fund program. And this is a really big pull for a lot of our donors' hearts, because this is where the magic happens for those who don't have access to an insurance pay source, Medicare, Medicaid. And I recently heard the story of a young father. My goodness, he was in his 40s and diagnosed with a terminal cancer. He did start out with treatment, but it was taking its toll, so he decided to discontinue treatment and enter hospice care. But during his cancer journey and his treatment journey, he lost his job, and he was the carrier of his family's insurance. So he lost access to insurance coverage. And it is because of our donors supporting the Angel Fund that this young man, who, by the way, is too young for Medicare, his household income did not allow him to qualify for Medicaid, and he didn't have private insurance anymore. So this can happen to anybody on any day. This could be any of us. And our donors step in and make sure that this man was able to have quality of life, time with his young children, time with his wife. They got to go on fishing trips. He got to go to his daughter's ball games and things like that. So that doesn't happen because of Four Seasons alone. That happens because of our donors at Four Seasons. And donors' dollars help launch new programs. So Palma mentioned earlier, it could be care for a child. We have a specialized pediatric palliative and hospice care program. And I know that's really hard for people to hear that it's needed, but it's needed. And before Four Seasons launched that program, by the way, because of donors, we were able to launch that program. Families of very sick children were driving to Charlotte and Winston-Salem. And that's heartbreaking. So to know that our community of supporters said, nope, we want children to stay home. We want families to be able to stay home with their loved ones, and we get to go to them and take care of them. Our donors help us make important upgrades to Elizabeth House, our inpatient unit. And those upgrades can be things to make the staff more efficient and more comfortable in their work. A lot of times it can be enhancements that are comfort items to the patients or the families. And we honor veterans. I know that you had a podcast that talked about We Honor Veterans. That got started because of donors. And for those who are unfamiliar with the program, this allows a hospice patient who is a veteran to choose to have a recognition ceremony. And that ceremony is done by a member of the Military Officers Association of America. And I have attended a couple. They're touching. And to know that is most likely the last time that veteran's going to be recognized for his service or her service during their lifetime, it's very powerful. And again, Millicent, it's because of donors.
Yeah, it's because of the incredible kindness and generosity of our donors at Four Seasons that keep showing up for the community, bringing comfort, compassion, and care when it feels overwhelming. Every gift can help us create programs that meet the people where they are, right at the moment they need it the most. You're not just giving. You're making sure that no one's going to walk this journey alone.
You know, as y'all are sharing that, flashbacks keep coming to my eyes of visits I've been on or conversations with loved ones. And just the thought that their loved one had access to care, they didn't have to worry about the funding of that care, that they knew that the employees would be there, that volunteers would be there. It just makes a huge difference. And I think earlier, one of you mentioned about comfort. It's so important that people have the confidence that they're going to get the care they need. They get the care that is most important. And comfort is really key in that. So often, if we're facing a serious illness or even a serious time in our life, it might not feel comfortable. In fact, it can feel really scary. And coupling employees, volunteers, donors together to make care possible brings reassurance, brings that comfort. And at the end of the day, when we say Four Seasons exists to positively impact lives, we couldn't do it without our donors. We couldn't do it without our volunteers and our employees. And so could y'all talk a little about how could someone give, but then also talk a little bit about volunteering, because that's another way to also give.
There are so many ways that a person can impact care at Four Seasons.
You can make an outright gift to Four Seasons Foundation. Gifts of stock also are available. You can do it through an IRA, which is called a qualified charitable distribution. A donor can also make a gift through their will, trust, or naming Four Seasons as a beneficiary on a retirement account or life insurance policy.
And another really fun and engaging way that people can support care at Four Seasons is through attending events. And I don't know that people really necessarily see attending an event as directly impacting patient care, but it does. Our two biggest during the year are Tree of Lights, which happens every year in November, December timeframe. And it is a community candlelight vigil. And it's open to anybody in the community to come in and just remember and honor and celebrate your loved ones who have passed. And it's just a very reflective, quiet, calm, beautiful, and pretty brief candlelight ceremony. Our music therapist play music, and it's just a very sweet way to honor our loved ones. And for those who want, they can buy an ornament, and we engrave their loved one's name on the ornament. So that's our Tree of Lights program. And in the spring, we have a really fun, high energy, upbeat fashion show luncheon called Resale Runway. Everything that I just described with Tree of Lights is not Resale Runway. It is energy, fun, laughter, and we have models from the community who will wear high-end designer fashions that are pulled from our hospice home stores. So it's also a way to really educate the community that when they engage with our home stores, they're also supporting care, and there's an auction and all of that fun stuff involved. So buying a ticket to that event does go towards patient care. So just as Palma was talking about ways that people can take the resources that they have and make a donation, this is another way that they can do that. And for anybody out there listening that is a business owner that has a connection or a love for the work that we do, any of these events are sponsorship opportunities. So if that's something that would resonate with a business owner, we would love to have that conversation with you. So we did talk earlier about some of the mechanics of how somebody could make a gift. Palma talked about an outright gift or a gift of stock, a gift through their IRA. Individuals who are 70 and a half or older who have an IRA, you're required to take income. But if you don't need that income, they allow you to give it directly to a charity without having to pay tax on that income. So it's called qualified charitable distribution. It's a fantastic, fantastic tool for those who have IRAs and don't need that excess income. I would say if somebody, because we've talked a lot here and we've probably brought up things that people are saying, I had no idea that Four Seasons did all of this. So I would say if you feel drawn to get involved and to support, certainly go on our website, give us a call, especially if you want to learn more about a program and how you can have a very direct impact on a specific program. That's what Palma and I are here for. We help guide our community through the right path for their gifts. So that's what I would say is, how can somebody do it? You can simply go on our website and give us a call, and we would love to have that conversation with you.
Another wonderful and exciting way would be to go to one of the home stores. The home stores, we have 3 and a warehouse. One is located in Arden on Long Shoals Road, another in Brevard, right on Asheville Highway, and Henderson, of course, is right on Main Street. Once a month, we have a warehouse sale in Flat Rock. We actually will be having one in December. The dates for those are Friday, December 12th and Saturday the 13th. You have to get to the warehouse sales. They're lots of fun.
I echo that. The warehouse is amazing. I hope you all can attend. And you talked about volunteerism. I think most people probably see volunteering at a place like Four Seasons as, my loved one passed at Four Seasons. I don't know that I could do that, because I think they associate that it's going to be patient facing. And we do have amazing volunteers who do sit by patients' bedsides. We do have volunteers who will make phone calls to families going into the weekend to see if they need anything equipment-wise or support-wise. But we also have volunteers that do administrative support functions. In the foundation, we have volunteers that help us throw these events. So if you like the idea of throwing a party like Resale Runway, definitely give us a call. I am just blown away by the heart of our volunteers. And I found out recently through our volunteer coordinators that we have more than 300 volunteers in our organization, and they are across all 14 counties. You do not have to be right here where we are headquartered to volunteer. We need you all over our service footprint. And they volunteered 33,000 hours. And the benefit, the services that they provided equate to a cost savings of more than $1.1 million. And that is a lot of love.
It is.
That is a lot of love from the humans who want to give back and support.
That's it.
Our
Making
patients.
care possible.
Making care possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, in 1979, when we were founded by volunteers who said it was so important to them to make sure that anyone who needed access to high quality care at the end of their life had it, regardless of their ability to pay. And we still say that to this day, right? Even though we serve beyond hospice care alone, we realize that when someone is facing a serious diagnosis, it can be complicated. And that's why we started with generous donations, additional service offerings like our care navigation. So if someone's facing a serious illness and they don't know what to do, they can have a care navigator walk alongside of them, or personal care needs through our home care services, or they're having a serious illness and they want to continue to pursue treatments, palliative care. They need the expertise, and that come alongside of you. And then, of course, hospice, which is what a lot of what people are familiar with. But you also mentioned something really important, Stephanie, earlier, is about our grief services. And, you know, it's really difficult to lose a loved one. You can't necessarily plan for how you're going to react or how you're going to respond or how it's going to impact. And one of the things that donors make possible is our grief support, not just the first, short little time after, but whenever there's a need. And our grief support is here. And it's available in multiple ways. I was able to just participate last week in both a seated and a virtual. And it was so special to hear people, as we're going into holidays, remember their loved one, but also try to seek support for how do I cope? How do I process? How do I get through the holidays in a way that is meaningful when my loved one's no longer here? And so I just want to encourage people too to think about, we want you to connect and positively impacting lives in a way that's meaningful for you.
Absolutely. So yes, to kind of recap everything that we just said, we gave a long answer to your question. You can support through a donation, like the classic form of a donation, but also supporting through shopping or donating at the home stores and volunteering your time. It's invaluable.
Thank you so much for sharing about how someone could get started learning more about how they could give. For our listeners, if you'd like to go onto our website, you may do so by visiting us at fourseasonsfdn.org, or you can pick up the phone and call us at 828-513-2440. In our final moments, is there anything else that either of you, Palma or Stephanie, would like to share with our listeners?
We've listed some programs that are pretty significant, and I want everybody to know that you don't have to have the ability to make a huge gift. The majority of our gifts come from people who send in $25, $50, $10, and it's all of those gifts combined that make the impact. There's a quote that I love that says, individually, we are one drop. Together, we are an ocean. And that's how I view donors who maybe all they can give is $1, $10, or whatnot. And they might think that their gift does not make that impact, but it does. It absolutely does. So I just wanted to share that this is not a conversation we're having about people who can make tremendous gifts. This is about all of us making a difference.
Makes me think of our mission of co-creating the care experience. It takes each of us to come alongside patients and families to ask what's most important so we truly can make trusted care possible. And Four Seasons has so many ways to get involved. And so we really do encourage you to go to our website. You can go to our foundation website. You can go to our care website, which is fourseasonscare.org. You can call us. You can go into one of our home stores. But genuinely, we want our listeners to know we care. And so I'm so thankful for generous individuals who make care possible. Thank you both for being here. And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For more information about our services and to request care, please visit us at fourseasonscare.org.
The Quality of Life podcast is produced by Four Seasons, the care you trust, providing award-winning quality hospice and palliative care to Western North Carolina. For more information, visit fourseasonscare.org or call 866-466-9734.